Hello, everybody. My name is Al, the owner of Academic Composition. Great to be with all you again. I'm here once more with Professor Keith Preston, our longest serving writer. Keith is a professor of sociology with a master's degree in criminology, a seasoned academic with over 30 years of experience. Keith, how do you reconcile the apparent conflict of interest between being a professor and an academic writer? Like, gosh, that's cognitive dissonance right there. How do you solve that?
Well, there is no contradiction because we have to realize that the business of academia is changing. Nowadays, academia is very similar to the business world. I mean, universities are run as business corporations, and they're increasingly adopting what the sociologist George Ritzer called the McDonald's model, meaning that it's all, increasingly it's just about getting many customers in and getting their money and getting them through the system and getting them out and bringing in more. And for listeners who have been in academia, they know that this is largely how it works.
Yeah, continue.
And as far as the kinds of services that we provide at Academic Composition, we help students navigate this system. Increasingly, students are being required to take joke classes that really have no meaning as far as their overall field of study, and we help students navigate their way through those kinds of courses by taking the responsibility off their shoulders and assuming it for ourselves. Now, as far as being an academic writer, it's no different than what goes on in many other fields. For example, politics. Many politicians do not write their own speeches. Often you'd be surprised at how many clerics do not write their own sermons. And that's exactly what we do at Academic Composition. We're just basically an academic version of a speechwriter or ghostwriter. Just like if a professional athlete or entertainer writes a book, often they get a ghostwriter to help them or do it for them completely. And that's what we do. We are, ghostwriters for academicians, and we're, the equivalent of speechwriters for students. So it's not a problem at all. It's something that's widely practiced in many different fields.
Oh, thanks so much for that, John. Welcome to the show. You've also been with us for a whole decade, so that's another veteran of the industry. Now, John, do you see any actual problem between being a professor and being an academic writer? Does anybody really care? Does anybody have ethical qualms in this day and age? Should anybody feel bad that they're cheating, quote unquote?
We can look at it two ways. I would kind of look at it the same as if a professor had a relationship with a student. If you're a professor in fine arts and you start having a relationship with a biology student that you have no connection with, that never takes your class, I think most people will be fine with that. I think when they start going into ethical issues is when this professor is now dating a student directly in his class, because the perception now is that, well, you're going to favor that student. She doesn't really have to do anything to get an A in the class, say. Same with, workplace relationships, where if the manager is now dating a subordinate, well, how's that going to look to everyone else? So going back to our space, if the professor is say working with us or working, on writing academic work, as long as it doesn't impact his or her engagement in that class, as long as he's not doing the work for students in his or her class, I don't think it's a problem, and I don't think most people would see it as a problem. I think when there's a direct correlation, that's when people start seeing it as an ethical issue.
Now, Keith, you did tell me that before, that as long as you're not doing your student's work, that's fine. But if there's somebody else's student, no big deal, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So, but then there is also a bigger issue at play: ethics versus morality. See, obviously, the university considers this to be unethical. But what did Peter Drucker say about business ethics? It's casuistry or sophistry. It's all rhetoric. It's all demagoguery that people use business ethics to justify their own interests. But is there anything immoral about what we do? I never thought so. I never really thought that there is a real moral problem with this. And most of our clients just don't feel that way. And if they do feel guilty, they only do for a moment. And who can blame them? After all, it's not like they're hurting people. It's not like they're stealing something. Are they really making society worse off by using a service like ours? I mean, who's the victim here anyway?
Well, when it comes to the issue of cheating, traditionally cheating meant something like taking a test and then looking at somebody else's paper and copying their answers. So technically, you're stealing that student's work. But that's not what we're doing. We are specifically commissioned by our clients to produce original work for them. It's no different than if they were hiring us to do artwork, to paint pictures for them, or to make sculptures, or anything like that. I mean, we're doing creative work for a client. And as I said earlier, the it's no different than ghost writers. It's no different than speech writers. In many different professions, you have people who hire others to create work for them that they're going to be presenting publicly, without necessarily crediting the author. I mean, musicians do that all the time, like popular entertainers. Like Taylor Swift doesn't publicly credit every musician who ever plays on every song she's ever recorded. That drummer that got called into the studio to lay down a drum track. That person's not going to be put on the cover of the album or whatever as one of the performers necessarily. So everything works like this. I mean, there are many different industries, many different businesses, many different fields of endeavor where you have other participants who contribute to a project who aren't necessarily named publicly as part of the participants. I mean, if that were the case, then a lot of things just couldn't work because there's a lot of things that are set up that way. Business, when a company develops a product, they have a patent on that product, right? But it's in the company's name. They don't necessarily put the name of every single individual in the company that had anything to do with the development of that project. Every chemist in the lab who developed this chemical compound or whatever. And that's what we're doing. I mean, we're simply producing products for clients who are involved in a creative endeavor, that is, writing academic papers, and we're doing so in a way that models the same business model as many other industries.
And some educationalists, as you'd call them, the professoriate class, would say that when cheating happens, the cheater abuses another student. They're exploiting them and taking credit for their work. And then we would argue, well, we're in the free market. We're in the real world. You can collaborate with whoever you want. Collaboration is not collusion. And what are they going to say? Well, the free market is a false consciousness of capitalist oppression. And what are they going to give you? Some Marxist rigmarole? But really, where is the problem with this kind of a collaboration? And John, what do you think? I mean, what we're doing is an actual collaboration, not a collusion, isn't it?
I believe so. And just side story, I used to have a guy that harassed me personally for probably 5 years. He found me one of my ads on Craigslist. His whole argument was, if your mother is in the hospital dying and needs life-saving care, do you want the doctor to have gotten help with their work? And now my mom's been in and out of the hospital, and a lot of our students have been nurses who we've helped with the academic writing, and they do their own clinical most of the time. So at no point am I in there saying, I wonder if these nurses got help with their work, because I don't care about that as, someone who's now a consumer of healthcare as a patient, or who has a family member as a patient. As long as they were able to produce in the moment, I don't care if the doctor got help back 30 years ago, and I don't care if the nurse got help 5 years ago when she was, she or he was going through the process of earning a bachelor's degree or becoming an RN. All I care about is can they produce the work now? And a lot of our clients need help with the formalities of writing. And I don't think that's going to diminish their ability to be a nurse or work in industry or even become a doctor one day. So going back to the initial guy that used to harass me, that was his whole argument. And he said, well, basically you're cheating people out of getting the best care later because you're helping these people now. And my counter would be, well, if we weren't helping them now and they just gave up, they wouldn't be nurses or doctors. So you're the one cheating society by saying any collaboration early in your academic career is cheating and shouldn't be allowed. And you should be basically typecast out of society and go find a job in retail or fast food. So I think collaboration is in any industry, as Keith said, you go into any place of worship on Sunday, someone's getting help writing their sermons and sharing this message, but no one's stopping and thinking, oh my God, I can't listen to this. This guy probably got help from someone else. The end result is what matters in society when we're consumers or patients or worshipers or whatever it is, So we're just helping them along the way a little. Whether that's unethical, you can make that argument. But I don't think your argument's very strong that it's unethical because everyone is collaborating, especially at bureaucratic level, Congress and deep state and higher in government. So if you really want to see where the unethics are or the unethical practices are, that's where you should start, not with the small scale company like us that's just helping people get their homework done.
Yeah, for the ethical arguments against a company like ours to work, you would have to say, well, no school children should ever get any help from their parents as far as homework. Which just means more children wouldn't do their homework. You could say, well, no college student should ever seek out the assistance of a tutor, which means more and more students would just simply fail classes. And it's also, and that's the same way with our clients. A lot of our clients are using our services because they may be busy with other activities like making a living or family or professional work. And without our assistance, they may not advance in their profession. Also, we have to consider that much of our work, much of the work that we do for students is make work. I mean, nowadays in a lot of colleges and universities, there's a lot of classes that are just make work classes. They're not relevant to the students' actual professional ambitions. The healthcare is a good example. Frequently, we will have nursing students who are our clients, and we're not doing their nursing work for them. What we're doing for them are all sorts of prerequisite or peripheral material. We're doing their government class for them, or we're helping them with it. We're helping them with their social sciences classes. We're not in the clinic with them doing their clinical work for them. Even when it comes to a lot of their nursing curriculum, we're helping them with peripheral stuff. Reviewing an article, for example, from a medical journal, things that aren't directly oriented towards treating patients. It's not like we're in the hospital with the nurse, and the nurse leaves and we're there with the patient, saying, okay, patient, this is what we're going to do for you. That's not how this works.
Well, the fundamental issue here is progressive credentials. You need all the more and more useless degrees, apparently, that are impractical to get ahead in life. Now, John, you mentioned if you want to find corruption or unethical behavior, look at the bureaucracy. And having lived in D.C. for a whole decade, I see that the lion's share of abuse happens in the government, at nonprofit sectors, and while the private companies are far from innocent, small businesses are not innocent. They are a drop in the ocean compared to these companies. So the real problem is that people have to jump through hoops and study things that have nothing to do with their actual career just to keep their jobs. And what's great about that? Why shouldn't they rebel against a system that's fundamentally unjust?
Well, high school students are reading at kindergarten and first grade levels. They're doing math probably not even at second or third grade levels, and they're graduating high school. So are do we just have a generation of complete idiots, or is there something wrong up top, where progressivism is so focused on education, and maybe it should be because we see the results. Where is the money going? It's going to teachers unions, but we keep hearing teachers are underpaid. Okay, well, why are teacher unions so major? So yeah, we have to go to the top and realize where's the root cause. So if we're being attacked for helping, well, obviously these people need help. If they're coming out, or entering college, coming out of high school, graduating, and they can't read at a first grade level, they're still reading as they should be when they're 5 or 6 years old in kindergarten. That's a problem at the top.
And what can be done about this problem up top? Are we doing anything to help with that?
I don't know how you can solve a problem on that scale. I'm not an educational scientist, but something needs to be done to reevaluate how education is viewed in this country and even in Europe, because we see it constantly in our space where the first steps to education at the collegiate level are now asking students to do a discussion post and them finding a way to have someone else find the answer for them. This is the most remedial part of college, as we know, and they've made it the core focus, as if these students are engaged in this thoughtful conversation about, what happened during the War of 1812 for their history class, and bouncing ideas back and forth. And really, that's what education probably should be in a traditional sense, but they can't even complete these tasks because they lack the skills to do so. They lack the skills to have the conversation with one another as students. So you'll just see them saying, yes, I agree. The War of 1812 was a major event in world history. Thanks for your post. And then 100 other students will say the exact same thing. I agree with you. Great post. Well,
but the benefit of our service, though, is that we help students navigate these issues, because our students tend to be serious students who want to advance in their professional career and get their degrees. At the same time, these kinds of remedial activities that we see taking place are a burden to a lot of our students. They don't have time for this kind of stuff. And we take that responsibility off of their hands. That way students don't have to spend a whole lot of time working on these elementary school level discussion posts about, well, what happened in the War of 1812. It's just like every semester with these online classes, the students are supposed to post self-introductions, and they're just these how I spent my summer vacation type of statements. And we do all that kind of stuff for the students so they don't have to be bothered with it. They can focus on their more serious life business, their jobs, their families, their professional work, their genuine academic aspirations, and things like that.
And we see this a lot. Now, the discussion posts, online discussion forums are meant to imitate an actual classroom environment. The one that I've gotten accustomed to when I was a student, where there's a small classroom that meets face-to-face and the professor engages the students and they debate ideas. That was my experience studying philosophy, but this is not happening in an online classroom. It's not a chance, no way. So it's really a waste of time. We're seeing a lot of perfunctory discussion posts. And why is that? Well, because most of these people don't have a passion for learning. The level of engagement is just not what you can reasonably expect in 2005 in an actual classroom environment. And John, do you think there's a way to fix this, or is that a totally lost cause?
Well, it would require a complete overhaul of what education is now. So it's not going to happen for generations, I don't think, because we're going in that direction. And I think we're going to be going more in that direction. So back to my point is that they've set up a system where you're entering college unprepared for your career, whatever that may be, because it's dumbed down this much at the collegiate level. So in high school and before high school, you're really screwed, So that's why we can take that part out of the equation where you don't have to deal with the nonsense, and we can help you kind of find yourself and what you really want to do by getting that bullshit out of the way. Because the students really being cheated if they're paying for higher education and this is what they're given, no, very few of our students, clients, whatever you call them, are going to say, I gained anything from these assignments. That's why they want our help, because they do want to gain something. They're paying for college in one way or another, whether it's loans or grants or out of their pocket. So we're trying to get rid of the burden of these remedial tasks so that you can use the college experience, whatever age you are, to actually focus on what you want to focus on and move forward in your career, and not have to worry about responding on a Sunday night to 2 more students that said the exact same thing as 40 other students before them. But you have to go in there and write a response to them because that's what the teacher wants, because the teachers don't want to really engage you now. They just want you to engage yourself and show proof of that.
Yeah. So we're essentially doing what's got to be done to get ahead, to get through all these bureaucratic hurdles. See, the system of education is a bureaucracy. It's really a public sector enterprise, although some universities and private colleges, how do they get financed? It's a student loan. It's a voucher system, student loan scheme. Keith, you have a lot to say on that, don't you? Is education in America really private, or is it actually a publicly funded bureaucracy masquerading as some kind of a private business?
Well, universities and colleges, regardless of whether they're officially public or private, are highly dependent on government funding, particularly through the student loan system. The business model of higher education nowadays is the goal is to get as many students in. That's why they keep lowering the admission requirements. And then they want to encourage students to stay in as long as they can, take out as many student loans as they can, and get as many degrees as they can, and run up as much student loan debt as they can, because that's how colleges and universities make money. I know that of all the institutions of higher education I've ever been in, as far as any pressure I received from the administration, the main thing the administration always emphasized is making sure all the paperwork is done so that the students can be sure to get their student loan money, because that's how the university made their money. That's all they really cared about. I mean, I've taught in institutions where, I could be teaching Spider-Man in class and they wouldn't care. But as long as I've got my paperwork updated so the students can collect their student loans and pay their tuition money, and the university gets their pay, that's all they care about.
All right. So, John, any closing thoughts?
Semester starting. It's going to start getting a little busier. Just wanted to reach out to anyone out there that maybe wanted to take a chance on us and let them know we're here for you. We're in communication. We're not going to take your money and run. We're not going to ignore you when you need some updates or have any comments after the work is done. If we're very interactive and engaged. And looking around the industry right now, you're going to see a lot of companies with 20, 30 different websites of various names, one company. We don't need to do that because you see our faces, you know who we are, and we're going to work with you directly. We're not going to outsource your work to someone halfway around the world. And our pricing is the best. Right now, you're probably going to pay about $60 a page across the industry. We're charging about half that, if not more than half that, less than half.
Sometimes
that.
even less than 30. So regular clients get 15 a page, or you get a deal like that. All right, guys, thanks so much. Follow us at www.academiccomposition.com. Email us at academiccomposition@gmail.com. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.